Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilove, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. I have a very, very special guest today who just flew in on her unicorn, and that is exactly how she wanted me to introduce her, because she is truly a magical person, and she is also a very courageous as well as a very creative lady. And I would like to introduce to you Mariah Ehlert.
Thanks so much for having me here. I thought you were going to fly in on the unicorn.
No, I typically fly in on a broom, not a unicorn.
We'll just add some glitter to it. It's all good.
Okay, there you go. That sounds great. So thanks so much for being here with us today, Mariah. I just love you. I just want the listeners to know I met you about a year ago, right? I think so.
Yeah, I think it was last spring.
Yeah, yes it was, because it kept snowing. And I met you on LinkedIn, and I knew you were a photographer by your profile. And the background photo, or the cover photo, was just absolutely stunning. And I asked you, I said, is that your studio? And you said yes. And then you told me a little bit more background about your studio and about your space. So tell us how you ended up with that incredible space and what it was prior to you purchasing it and converting it into a studio.
Thank you. It definitely has been a journey getting to that space, and that, especially that photo that you saw, which is, I think it's still up there. I was not really doing much. I was working a 9-to-5 job, which was probably a little bit more than that because it was on Wall Street.
Ooh.
And had a big transition in my life and realized I needed to do something that I was passionate about, that I loved doing, that filled me up, instead of just plugging in and plugging out every day. And I went on this trip to Scotland. This is starting to be a longer story.
I've got all day.
And a friend was like, you really need to take a vacation, and was so pushy about it that if I didn't book something, they were going to book it for me. So I'm like, well, I want to go someplace I like.
Yeah, that's
and
really
do
good.
something I want to do. So I better book this quick. So I found this photography trip to Scotland and went there, and I was around a bunch of professional photographers, and it was so incredible and amazing. I came back and I'm like, wait a minute, I can do this. And I saw the business models, and it's something, like, I've been doing photography forever. Like, that was my work study all through college. And,
okay.
Working in the darkroom, bulk rolls of film, and then I graduated, realized you have to pay for film.
Yeah.
And developing.
Yeah, there's a lot of overhead, isn't there?
So much overhead. But now we're in a digital age, so there was like a learning curve there, which I happily dove into. It was a lot of fun learning that again. And fast forward a couple years, I was on this trip. Actually, right before the trip, I had been talking to this life coach and just trying to find, navigate.
Now, were you in Denver at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Denver at the time.
Okay.
And she kept telling me, you keep talking about, renovating an old property. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's just a dream. She's like, why does it have to just be a dream? Like, well, because that's hard. And I barely, I don't know how to put up drywall and that stuff, and plumbing and electrical, and it's just me. And she goes, well, just go look. I'm like, okay. So I just looked, and I had a realtor friend. We looked at some places. I didn't see anything I liked at all. It was just real boring.
So what kind of buildings were you looking at? Were you looking at older homes, old business places, or what?
I was kind of looking for the old warehouses I fell in love with around Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right. You did live in Pittsburgh.
No, I didn't. I had a friend who lived there, and I'd visit there with her a lot.
Got it, yeah.
We both lived, shared a house out in New Jersey for a while.
Okay, that's right.
And until, my gypsy thing kicked in, and I just kept moving around.
That unicorn kind of poked you this morning.
Get going, girl.
Get a move on.
Yeah. But it was, and I saw all those old warehouses, and Pittsburgh was going through such a boom at the time. I thought, wow, that would be incredible. But I don't know if I really want to live in Pennsylvania. So fast forward, and I started looking at places, and I was looking for something with character, for charm and character, and definitely a lot of natural light, because I'm a natural light photographer predominantly. And I just had this dream of huge windows and big open spaces, and just open. And I kept finding like little tiny 1970s, those like prefab sort of churches and with big parking lots and not even any grass. It's like, well, I don't know. I've got 2 dogs and I like to garden and
can't do that on asphalt.
Yeah, it just nothing was really sparking me at all. And then I decided, well, what I'm going to do is there's this tiny little sunroom on the side of my house. I'm going to plow it down and just make a little. It still would have been a really small studio, but it would have been something a little bigger than the tiny room I was working in. And it was already like the contractors. I had a quote from some quotes from different contractors, and it was already at the high end. I'm like, well. It's better than nothing. Went on this trip to Paris, photography trip, and it was kind of like a workcation sort of thing. So much fun.
And tax deductible, I take it too, or
almost all, yeah.
Or a write-off?
Yeah, it was mostly write-offable, like maybe 70-30 or 40, somewhere in there.
It's all legit, ladies and gentlemen.
All legit. I don't even think I wrote it off because I was so like, I just wasn't even thinking taxes at that time. It was my first year of business still.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, I'm on a train on my way from Paris to Brussels, open up my laptop, get the final quote from the contractor with the contract there. He's waiting for a signature and a big check. And it's more than double what he quoted me.
God.
And I just, without any regret or remorse, I closed my laptop and said, no, no, I can't even. That's ridiculous. Something else would come up.
So you didn't even have to sweat it or consider it. It was just like you knew this was not.
Yep.
We were done.
I was done.
Okay.
There was no more debate or, I was just like, I just can't even. 1 week later to the day, my real estate friend sends me this email. And she says, I know you're not looking, but this place just went on the market. I clicked on the link. My jaw dropped. Emailed a rec right away. I said, can we go see it tomorrow? And you walked into it. We went and saw it, and it was the church that I ended up buying.
Mariah bought a church. I have never met anybody in my entire life who literally bought a church. So
I still can't believe it. It's crazy. I have to pinch myself every day, except for when things break. Then that's a good pinch. But I think that's every homeowner's journey.
True.
Oh my gosh. Walked in and it was a hot mess. It was dark and dingy. The windows were boarded up, and
oh geez,
there really wasn't anything like electrical or plumbing. There was this one sort of pseudo bathroom, but that was it. Otherwise, it was just this shell, this grimy, grungy, dark shell. And I walked in and my eyeballs just bung out. I'm like, it's beautiful. I love it. And just to be on the safe side, when I went back to look at it again before I did a contract or anything else, my real estate friend, Diane Clow, who's amazing, she had 2 of her friends who were, one was an inspector and the other was a contractor.
Okay.
Not like to officially engage them in anything,
Right.
just kick the tires, see if it was even worth getting excited about. And the inspector was there before me, and he came around the corner as I was entering in, and same thing, his eyeballs were bugging out. He had this huge kid grin on his face. He's like, oh my God, this place is amazing.
Even all boarded up and dingy and dirty and dark.
Damn it. And I looked at Diana, I was like, I'm buying a church, aren't I? And she
my
kind of
God.
shrugs her shoulders, she's like, I guess.
Jeez. So did anybody think you were crazy?
Oh, everyone thought I was crazy.
And you told me your mom's a real estate agent? Is
Yes,
that right? Or she's in real estate?
my mom's a real estate agent in Minnesota, and she came out, and this was after I signed the contract, and I was like ready to go.
It was a done deal, but there was no construction that had been done yet.
Correct. It was a done deal, almost a done deal. Like lines hadn't been signed yet. And not only is she a real estate agent, but she's renovated a number of places herself.
Oh.
And she's also, not quite sure what this means, sorry, Mom, but a old home certified something or another.
Okay.
So she gets old places, and she gets like the renovation process, and she's an artist. So she has vision. She walked in, she grabbed my shoulder and said, oh, honey, oh no. And I just looked at her and I said, zip it. I don't want to even hear it. Just zip it. I'm doing it. I'm going for it.
I remember when I
jumped.
asked you that when I met you and I saw the church for the first time, or the building, and I said, oh my gosh. I said, well, and you told me the story, and I says, well, at least she didn't cry. And do you remember what you told me?
What did I tell you?
You said, well, not in front of me. She
Oh,
didn't.
yeah. Yeah, she might. I'm certain she probably like went off afterwards and just like, oh God, what did she get herself into?
Wow.
But I think a lot of it was just that protective.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Now, tell me, what year was the church built?
1896.
1896. Okay, so it's a little bit more modern than I thought it was. And went through several transitions then. I mean, it wasn't like that one church up until the time, they closed their doors and you bought it, right?
Correct.
They had a few other owners.
Yeah.
And it started out as a Baptist church, is that right?
I don't know if it did. I just
Okay.
recently found out there was this this group of people that were outside my house. My neighbor was leading them to my door. I'm like, okay.
Okay, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago even.
Ooh.
And they're moving really slow, like elderly. And the one woman her face was lit up. Like
Wow.
her eyes were wide and sparkly and she was just looking at this place and I'm like, whoa, something's going on here. So she told me her father was a minister there back in 1949.
Wow.
When she was a little girl.
Oh,
It
what
was
a
amazing.
cool thing.
It was so cool. So, I mean, I'm still getting all the pieces of the story.
Now, how long have you been there? Was
Tricky question to answer because I bought it in June 2016.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow.
And the renovations were going to take 3 months.
Wow.
And it ended up taking 17 months. And we didn't factor in permits, waiting on the city, waiting on the city, waiting on the city, waiting on labor, waiting on more. I mean, housing shortage in Denver right now is nuts. The building is out of control. Like I called up my cousin at one point who's in college and I said, you got to just drop out and go into trades.
Yeah.
Go to trade school. This is ridiculous. That was the majority of the delays. Like,
yeah.
I did not expect that.
So now tell me what happened, because something did happen. You were working in finance, right? And so you didn't have a mortgage on your home, right?
Correct. I just paid off my mortgage.
So all of a sudden now you do have a mortgage, probably a pretty significant one. But it was okay because you had a really good job. And then what happened?
Yeah, when I bought the place, that was one of the things that came up is like, crap, now I can't leave this industry, the finance industry, because I have a mortgage again. And for some reason, like doing something I love, I could never make enough money to pay anything doing that. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Then fast forward about a year when I was in the middle of renovations. I was living in an Airbnb.
Oh, jeez.
And
because you had already sold your house? Or?
I sold my house.
Thinking that you would be in the church in 3 months because it was only going to take 3 months to renovate.
And there was this beautiful serendipitous moment too where I sold my house, had it packed up, sold on the market in 2.5 weeks. And then my friends who offered, they're like, come stay with me. Because I had 2 dogs too. So it's hard to find a place they'll take you and your dogs. And they just happened to be packing up to leave to Georgia, Atlanta. Okay. And they had a 3-month window. I had a 3-month window. I'm like, well, this is perfect. I'll pack my house up. Come help you pack your house up. And everything will be jolly. But it didn't work out that way. So here I am. I'm sitting in an Airbnb and I get laid off. Like they had this mass layoff company-wide that year. And I had a good 15-minute hard cry. And then I pulled my head up and I was like, oh, I'm free. I'm free. Like now I can, because I was right at that tipping point where my business needed more time. I needed to be more available to do networking, to go out and meet the community and, and to work, to actually like book clients. And the idea of leaving the finance industry didn't terrify me. It didn't make me nauseous anymore. So I think it was the universe's way of kind of just giving me that little push.
Yeah, you weren't listening to the gentle messages, so it just kind of conked you on the head.
Yeah, careful what you ask for.
Yeah, there you go.
And when you do, be ready for the answer.
Yeah, boy, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I love that. I should write that down, but you remind me later.
We're recording it.
Oh, son of a gun. Yes, we are.
We're so into the story. That's what
I know. Well, I could talk to you all day long. But so then, okay, so there you are. You're laid off. You are technically homeless. Yeah. So, but I mean, did you think at that moment, oh my goodness, I made a mistake?
No. Even just the question is like, wait, well, what? A mistake? No. I felt like my dreams were finally coming true. Like I was pushed out of the nest and it was time to stretch those wings out and really fly.
So there's one thing that you did tell me when I met you for the first time last year, and that was when you were telling me all of this, and I think the look on my face was just kind of like, I mean, I was just panicking for you, imagining myself being in that situation. And you said that the thing that really resonated with me or still sticks with me right now and to this day is you said that at that point you were less afraid than you ever were before. That when all of that happened, because I'm thinking, okay, she now doesn't have a job, she does have a big mortgage, and now she's homeless, living in somebody's, Airbnb. And you said that it was really funny that at that point that you felt the least fear or the least fearful. And did you want to expand on that at all, or anything else you have to
absolutely.
say about that?
It was so there have been a lot of factors that have a lot of tools that I've learned along the way that have helped me through some of these things. So what you're talking about, when I sold my house and bought the church, that month where I was going through that transition, where I realized, oh crap, now I can't leave this job because all these reasons, that's when I had the most fear. And then
Was the fear about being stuck and not having choices or the flexibility of being able to say, take this job and do, what with it?
The fear was more than that, because at either one of those points, I could identify multiple fears. Fear of being homeless, fear of entering into this big project and having all these commitments, not being able to follow through on them, and all the pressures from everywhere for all the different aspects of life, and what am I going to do, and where am I going to live, and am I going to be safe? All those fears accumulated, like they just kind of morph. So I see fear more as one thing versus a bunch of little things.
Okay.
And having the tools that I've learned over time, particularly the neurosculpting, which I mentioned, I think, at one point. The thing about fear is, just to get a little brain sciencey, is it's part of our limbic brain. And our limbic brain is a multiprocessor. It is pulling in cues from more, like, faster than we can even perceive them. And so a boulder's coming at us, we don't even see it yet, but we flinch and move out of the way. Like, our bodies and our brains are so heightened and alert to everything to protect us. And then there's a whole stress response that happens from that. And that's where you start to see disease from chronic stress and illness, and where people's necks and then stress builds up and it becomes anxiety, which is kind of like stress on crack. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Well, I went the other way. I faced the fears or rewired my reaction to those fears. So all the fears I mentioned before, like with the mortgage and, having a place to live and being safe and all those things, they were all perceived fears. So that's why I kind of clumped them all together, because they're not actual, the boulder falling on you or the mountain lion attacking you. You're just looking at something, creating a story, and then reacting to it. And once I learned that, I was able to rewire that reaction and be like, wait, hang on a second, I'm safe wherever I am. I'm, like right now, there's a roof over the head. We're protected from the elements, although it's quite nice outside. And
it is a beautiful day.
We have, access to food and water. Like, these are all things that the limbic brain only needs to know to be safe. Like, it's all right, I got this. Anything else is potential and possibility. And then I saw that whole door open up. So when I got laid off that February, I was like, wait, this isn't scary. This is really freaking exciting. Like, now I have more time to do all these things and create more and build more. And this is amazing. This is fantastic. And so that was my new perception, my new pathway that I wanted.
So I think that is so important for us to hear, and I never get tired of hearing it. I talk about neuroplasticity a lot, so it's like, let's talk about the brain some more, because it is the power of, our belief system and our self-image that really, it kind of dictates if we're going to succeed in something or not, and even to the point of having disease and disease states. And, I don't like it, people say, oh, well, you caused that disease, for yourself. And that's not what I'm saying. It's just that kind of ongoing stress on the body with the stress hormones and everything, and the mind-body connection is just so incredibly powerful. And just what you were saying, that you created like all these stories. Our brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, what's true and what's not true. So if we tell ourselves those messages over and over, we eventually do believe it, and we set ourselves up for failure or for sickness or, whatever it is. So that neurosculpting and the neuroplasticity is just such an important part of it. So how did you ever get involved in this neurosculpting? Is that...
Well, it was my hairdresser. I was in nutrition school at the time. I was working
Okay.
on a master's in nutrition therapy, and I was absolutely fascinated with the gut-brain connection and how mood disorders can be mitigated, altered, or dismantled basically by the health of our gut and our digestive system, and how crucial that is to our brain chemistry. And nerded out on it so hard that I was nerding out on it around everyone, including my hairdresser. Love her though. She's since moved, so we don't have these conversations anymore.
I can send you to mine, but I don't think you get into it.
And she's like, "Wow, you really need to talk to Lisa." I'm like, "Who's Lisa?" Lisa Wimberger. She's the founder of the Neurosculpting Institute here in Denver. And so I went to one of her classes or met her somewhere along the way. Anyway, ended up in her classes at her institute, taking some of them, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, it's the science behind meditation, and combining those is so powerful in like these simple little meditations. I mean, they seem simple, but they're actually really complex, and getting the entire brain activated and paying attention and using all the ways we learn in
Awareness and learning.
Yeah, in like in a much kinder way than say how we learn through fear.
Right.
And then I had this very big family trauma happen, and where my father went missing in another country. And I was just thrown into this state of constant trauma where I couldn't sleep. I was having nightmares all the time. I was having daymares. Like I just kept re-traumatizing.
Yeah.
I learned now I know what was going on. Like I was re-traumatizing myself every day. And Lisa reached out to me. She goes, come do some sessions with me. Come take some classes. Like I can help you. And she gave me some tools that I could use immediately to help that stress reaction. And it worked. Like some of them, some of the stories that we tell ourselves are old. They go back to before we were even aware that we were getting these stories, and, can take time, and they start to embody us, and they come out in our actions. Like they're so subconscious, like those, am I worthy? Am I lovable?
Right.
Am I enough? Like those stories.
Right.
So I feel like there's some forgiveness too. Like we have control over it, but we also don't realize how much how deep we've put some of these stories into us, into our neurology.
Wow.
But some of them, like the nightmares, she gave me this little trick of shaking, like shaking really, really hard, like,
like a dog shaking after a bath or something.
Or more so, like you ever see a dog that's terrified in a
like
thunderstorm?
Gesticulating,
It's
constant tremor.
Full body tremor shaking. And it worked. I was able to shift the chemistry in my body and break the thought pattern by doing that and go back to sleep. I just wanted to sleep so bad.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Now, did they ever find your dad?
No, they didn't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. It's been about 5 years and the case is still open.
Oh, jeez. So, I mean, you did send me something via email this morning, and it was a story that you wrote about that situation. I mean, it was brief, but it was... Wow, it was so powerful, and it was just really deeply moving. I didn't know that you were a writer, and apparently you didn't either. That was another thing you had a lot of fear around, and I just think it's so great because you're doing all of these wonderful things, and I mean I can totally relate because we're sitting here in my girl cave, and you can see all my martial arts belts, and I've got my little weapons rack over there and stuff, and it's amazing what we can do. I mean I never wanted to be a black belt. I never wanted to train in martial arts. And even when they finally dragged me on the mat, I says, okay, I'm going to take a few classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it. And then apparently that didn't happen. But we don't really know what we've got deep inside of us until we just do it and kind of let go of not only the fears, but the expectations. For myself, I never wanted to be a black belt, and I would see people coming in all the time, brand new students, all I want is that black belt. I want to get my black belt. And they were gone in just a couple of months. And it's like, I just want to survive another day on the mat, and to make sure I go home intact and, with my makeup still in place. So, I mean, it really is kind of interesting how, when you just let go of stuff.
Yeah, let go of your own perceptions of yourself and let go of how others want you to be and perceive
that's
you.
Huge. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that are those old stories too, because I remember thinking of one of how I ended up in finance. Like when I graduated college, my whole college career, I was a photographer. I was in the darkroom.
Oh, okay.
And that was my job. I mean, it wasn't, what is it called? The yearbook. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't like a yearbook photographer. Like, it was the publications department, going around getting photos for
Wow.
all their publications that they send out. And when I graduated, and not just for my parents, too. My mom's an artist, so she gets this too. But I think she also was happy for me to go into something more lucrative. And that's probably how I ended up in finance. And my father was an accountant. So plus society's all, well, you need to get a real job.
Yeah,
You
and then
need to
this
get a real
fluffy
job.
stuff, yeah.
And part of me, I wanted to earn a decent living. I wanted to earn a living, full stop. I just graduated. And I didn't know anything else. Like, I had no idea how to go into the arts, and I didn't know anything about business planning or my
Well, typically people who are really creative and really good at something that's artistic, really, we're not that good at like business or analyticals or the logical stuff is just like, oh, somebody else do that. I want to do what feeds my soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just go back around to, again, the talking about the writing and that your fear of writing. And like I said, you wrote that blurb about your dad and sent it to me this morning, and it was just so powerful and so beautiful. So tell us about your writing and your writing skills and your writing transition into being a writer.
Shoot, I didn't distract you well enough, did I?
No, you didn't. Thanks. See, you're a ninja. That's one of our tricks is distracting people. It's a ninja distraction trick, but no, I guess I got back on track.
Damn. Well, ask me next year.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I don't know. This was a last minute thing that I put together.
Really?
Yes. I heard about it on a Wednesday night. The deadline was Friday. And I thought, okay, 600 words. I can do 600 words. If it was probably like 5,000, I would have not even given it a second thought. But I thought, it's a day.
So did you do a lot of writing in college, or did you take a lot of writing courses, or how did you feel about the creative writing or process or whatever?
I took the bare minimum in college. My very first college professor, so freshmen at the school I went to, were required to take this, learn how to write for college class. And I think it was his last year teaching too. Loved him, like great person. He was, he was so much fun to have as an instructor, except for the writing part.
Okay.
His strategy with me was to push. And I'm more of a nibble, a nibble, let me, ruminate over things sort of learner. And I remember sitting in his office one day, and he had probably the 784th revision of some paper on his belly. His belly was kind of leaning back, so it was just kind of sitting there this is back when you could still smoke. And he had like these long, thin, brown cigarettes, like cigarillos sort of things. And the ash was falling onto my paper, and he's like,
jeez.
This is a piece of shit.
Oh my God.
And I just, it deflated me. It absolutely deflated me, and I was terrified to write anything after that.
What a horrible thing to do to somebody.
He did apologize to it later. I ran into him a couple years later after he'd retired, and because there was 2 campuses, so we were always taking a bus or hitching a ride with friends,
right.
Between the campuses. And he gave me a ride over to one campus, and he's like, "You were one of my best students, like it was so, like you were so interesting in class, and I really remember the things you wrote and da 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 da." And I looked at him like, "Are you kidding me?"
Did he remember what he said to you?
Probably not. I mean, it was like one moment in time that I remembered, because it was a negative thing. So my brain wanted to hold on to all the negative stuff.
Well, but not only that. I mean, this is a teacher, and that's pretty devastating.
He was unique. Yeah. So I joked with him, like, well, the dean's office is right over there. Go change my grade.
Oh, God.
So that kind of stunted me for a long time with writing. And just with, back to that theme of overcoming fears and rewiring the brain, I kind of, every time I run into something where I contract a little, like singing was another really big one. And writing, I lean toward it.
Okay.
So if I notice I'm contracting over something, afraid, and it's not a mountain lion chasing me down, then my instinct, or not my instinct, but my reaction now is to, okay, I need to get closer with this. So I need to write. on that level. But
It's really interesting because even as you're talking about it, when you're explaining when I'm afraid, and you can just see, but I can see the body language change. In some, it can even be just barely perceptible. You can barely see it, but you know it on a visceral level, and your brain is registering that. So that tiny little even contraction where your breastbone just drops a little bit and the shoulders round just even a little bit, it is sending so many incredible messages to your brain, and your brain is always recording what it's taking in. Everything. Even when we sleep. Yeah.
That's why, like with my clients, my photography clients, my personal branding clients, body language and micro expressions are so critical.
Talk about your photography business, because I've seen some of your works and it is absolutely stunning. And I can't wait for you to do a session with me. We're going to have so much fun, and we're not going to tell anybody about what we're planning, but so it's going to be a big secret, and I'm still kind of working on it in my own head. But so anyhow, tell us about your photography.
So I'm primarily a personal branding photographer, but I do a wide range of things, because people do a wide range of things, and I love to follow the person. But primarily it's personal branding, and in that it's basically telling your story, your brand story, which tends to be your personal story in a lot of aspects. So I have people come in with their children, with their dogs, because dogs are family,
yes, they are.
Or they're part of the office. Like I've had office mascots come in, and that's super fun. But body language, it's probably part of the brain science stuff that I geek out on so much. I love it. It's so, like you were mentioning, it's so expressive. And the thing too is where, say you go and you hunch your shoulders forward and you go into that very contracted position, your brain chemistry follows it.
Absolutely.
So if you go the opposite and you have your shoulders back, you stand up straight and you breathe fully and deeply, your brain chemistry responds to it and you become more confident. Like that, the Wonder Woman pose, the hands on the hips, the power pose.
Right.
If you hold that for a certain amount of time, you'll get a dose of testosterone, which will give you confidence.
Oh, wow.
So like before you're going to speak, that's a good one to do, and just stand there for, I can't remember how long it is, maybe about a minute or so. And it gives you that confidence.
See, what I do is I can't do my hands on my hips like that, because what we were taught in my training in martial arts was that, that would be considered confrontational.
Aggressive.
Yeah. And, well, there you go. There's that testosterone rush. And like arms crossed, which is, obviously being closed off.
Yeah.
But for us in our art, it was a sign of disrespect. And then, of course, you never stood with your hands behind your back.
Hiding
because,
something.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the hands were usually just in front of us, and the weight shifting and stuff. And it's very cat-like behavior, very...
Ooh, I love it.
I know. I want to say predatory, but not really, because it is. It's cat-like. And then, very soft and very sinewy type of thing. And
very feminine.
In a way, yeah, it can be. And that's why Sensei used to say, before he finally got me on the mat, is he would say that women were so good at this particular art. And he says, because they've got something that the men just can't even, they could never have. And I'm like, well, what's that? The sensuality. And I thought, okay, so now I know you're insane. This just sounds really, really crazy. And that's funny, even just talking about the neurosculpting. After even just a fairly short time in the dojo, I was still terrified, of course, but I could just really feel that sensuality and that way of moving that was just like, I really have a whole lot of power without being, that aggressiveness. And, as women, I think we have a tremendous amount of power inside of us that we don't even realize. And part of it is from the negative messaging that we get not only from ourselves and our own negative self-talk, but things that we hear from society, the media, other people, friends and family, who are, of course, just looking out for us and our own good, which sometimes doesn't really work out that well, but just those messages, it's such a mind-body connection.
It can be very powerful. When I'm in sessions with my clients, because I do pretty heavy consultation, because I want to know what their intention is and what their why is. And that's for me, what it's doing is getting through to their authentic message and who they are authentically as a person, so I can bring that out. So there's no fake smiles.
Right.
And it becomes, and when you start using that body language in front of the camera, the way you're talking about it, and connecting with who that person is, like you can bring out, like a shy person can all of a sudden become this beautiful flower.
Oh, there's that flower
There's
again.
that flower again. I know. We keep talking about flowers. But it's amazing to watch the transition just in the session from somebody who they show up, they're nervous, their hands are sweaty. Even though I do everything in my power to mitigate that stress, there's still that little bit of stress. Like me coming here.
Yeah.
Like I've met you before. I know you. I love talking to you. But they're still like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And I think it's even harder when, you know, they're going to purchase images, because what if they don't turn out?
Right.
And then through the experience, it's like, no, you're doing this for yourself more than anything else. I mean, if this is for your business, it's still a business that's yours.
Right.
And you're here because you want to show that to the world. You want to tell your story. You want to celebrate that story. And what it comes down to is celebrating you.
Exactly.
And showing who you are. And I love it so much. It's such an incredible way to be able to serve.
Well, and it's so funny. I was just talking to another person a couple of days ago about branding, and she's just really kind of stuck on branding, and she's taking all of these classes from all of these people and all of these professionals and trying to figure out her brand. And I thought, man, just have a session with you. You would know what your brand is, because you're so good at bringing people out and, you know, telling their story and stuff. So is there anything, what are you working on now? Is there anything, I mean, my goodness, what are you doing now?
So I just started this new business. In addition to my photography business, I'm doing, I call it the Rebel Brain.
Oh, I like that.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I really do.
And it's using, so I'm facilitating neurosculpting meditations and helping people rewire those pathways and those reactions to stress. Because it was so, I mean, it had such a huge life-changing effect for me.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where it was last spring, and I qualified for the certification for, I don't know how long, some years, and something just clicked. I'm like, it's time to share this now, where you get to that level of healing where you're like, whoa, this was big, this was deep, and now I want to share it. So. And now I'm finding ways to integrate the photography and the neurosculpting together. And I would love to do, so what right now I'm doing, you know, the photography sessions, and I'm also doing just regular, you know, neurosculpting meditations. And I'm planning for next year of doing some sort of workshop or ongoing workshop, classes over some weeks, and then like a nice long juicy weekend, and use the neurosculpting in there, and then work on like our avatars.
Well, that is a juicy weekend.
And work on, or the archetypes, you know, your queen or your warrior, or in some cases, the queen warrior, warrior queen, and, you know, culminate, really dive in deep and see who you are in each of these characters, and then how do you want to represent them visually, because cosplay is kind of my, you know, like my other geek thing, and I have some fantastic makeup artists, and I'm looking for, you know, working on getting a little fleet of costumers as well.
Well, you got that one dress I am dying to get my body into. It's just...
Was it the black one or the red one?
No,
the
it's the black
sequin?
one.
Yeah, that one's yummy.
That one's really, it is. It's very yummy.
It's so pretty.
It's
so
fun.
I think it would be incredible to put something together like that, where you go through these limiting beliefs and you really see your ideal self. And I think being able to see that visually is such a powerful anchor to, you know, when you're having those hard days.
Right.
Which we all have.
We all do.
And to see that anchor, to have your meditations to go back to, the somatic exercises, and will be really, really transformative.
I actually remember exactly the exact moment in time. I don't remember the day or the date, but I remember, you know, it was in May, and it was in my Feldenkrais training. And it was, I'll save the details of the story, but it was the first time that I actually saw myself, and I didn't realize it was me. And when I was like, oh my God, that was the day I realized I wasn't fat, ugly, and stupid. And I was probably 50 or 52 years old, maybe 51. And it was just like, why have I been listening to all the lies and who's been telling them to me? And, the main person would have been the lady in the mirror, which was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. When you hit that, I really feel like it's even just the first rung of self-love.
Right.
Is letting that go and being like, you're worth something.
Yeah.
Like looking in the mirror and seeing yourself and feeling that.
Yeah. Not only self-love, I think it's forgiveness. So I think that's a big part of it, just forgiving yourself and forgiving maybe some of those sources that were helping to feed the lies. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because it's not all from us, and it's not all from one other or group of other or society.
Right. And that programming does start very, very early. I mean, I have a teacher and a mentor that's it's like even in your utero, that the things that your mom experienced or whatever, and of course the chemistry is the same, that you're experiencing it too. So I mean, it's really fascinating to talk to her, and she's
Then if you want to get into epigenetics, that's
there
a whole nother topic there too.
Exactly. So, well, Mariah, I have had so much fun having you here, but before we have you get your little unicorn and fly off, please let our listeners know how to get a hold of you. How can they find you and how they can connect with you?
Well, my website is mariahphotography.com.
Okay.
Or the meditation is therebelbrain.com.
Okay. And go ahead. And Mariah is
MARIAH photography.com.
.com. Okay.
And Rebel, the Rebel Brain. It's pretty easy.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, and I know there are some of you listening to the FemiNinja, do check out Mariah's website. She is an amazing person. You can see pictures of this incredible church. She truly is an amazing woman of courage and creativity. And I think that is something that a lot of us have that we just haven't tapped into yet. And maybe if you connect with the Rebel Brain, maybe you can do that too. So once again, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. Get your comments, questions, or just connect with me. And you can email me at info@CherylIlove.com. So in the meantime, be kind to yourself, be gentle, because your brain is always listening, and that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.